What's your financial goal?
You want more money? Turn what you know into dough. Start hanging out with the people who have it. You create wealth on your own terms. It is not only your rights, but your duty to build wealth.
You are fiscally fabulous,
And it's time to enjoy your legacy.
You're listening to Fiscally Fabulous with Dr. Teresa R. Martin, Esquire, a podcast that aims to provide you with the tools, guidance, and encouragement you need to build your wealth, enjoy your wealth, and leave a lasting legacy. Dr. Martin is an accomplished attorney, speaker, business consultant, and real estate strategist, an all-around self-made success who provides highly sought-after expert consulting in the creation, growth, and maintenance of generational wealth.
Okay. So, Paul, legislative updates, please.
Okay. Now, I don't want anybody to think I'm bitter or a sore loser, but I've been following the last two administrations for the last 8 years. So I've got some issues that will go more into detail for the first real talk in the end of the month. But there are some things that I want to talk about and update people so that people can understand like what's about to happen in the next 10 days. Just today, the new regime was on Capitol Hill. They were talking about what they plan to do in their first day and the first thing they're going to do, they have like already planned 100 executive orders that they're going to do. Two of those executive orders that they previewed was the reinstatement of Title 42 and the reinstatement of Schedule F. Title 42 was the executive order that was the justification for shutting down the southern border. So anybody who's applying for asylum, they have to stay in Mexico until their case is decided. And Schedule F is the reclassification of a lot of these civil servants, the people who actually run the government. Do you ever think about how a country can actually wipe out their entire leadership team and put in place a new team and still have the country still function? It's because of the people who actually stay within the administration in various bureaus who stay there and maintain that continuity. But those people now will be subject to being hired and fired at will and being replaced by people who will just project for loyalty to the regime and not so much for their expertise. So that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on. The second thing that I want to talk about is we had this big drama in December about the federal budget. The federal budget only got approved through March. So there's going to be a big push to get that extended for the rest of the year. So there's a lot of spending discussion that's going to happen. And one of the big spending things that's going to happen even before that is they're going to have to raise the federal debt limit again. So why is it that federal law says that they have to, once they hit a certain level of federal debt, that they have to get approval to raise that debt limit again? And we're going to be very close to that. The new administration wants to suspend the debt limit for application for 4 years because they want to totally blow up the budget. And I'll go a little bit into that. One of the things that they want to do is they want the extension of the tax cuts from 2017. Those are set to expire this year, but they will be somehow extended. So that's projected to add another $7 trillion. So why is that important to us as investors? Problem is that U.S. government already has they're running a deficit of $36 trillion. So now we're talking about adding another potential $7 trillion on top of that. The only way that we can actually keep paying our bills is that Treasury has to send money or make money, bonds available on the bond market in order to generate the income to keep the government running. So if investors start losing faith in the U.S. government, that means that it's going to be harder and harder to finance this debt and makes it even harder to do spending. So that means that there's going to be even more potential spending cuts coming down the line. So to me, the tax cuts, I'm calling it the trickle down theory, which is a pickup from the Reagan years from the 1980s. Essentially, they're giving the tax cuts to the wealthiest people under the premise that they are going to create jobs for everybody else. But we know in past practice, what they actually do is they'll take that money, pocket it, and for corporations, they will actually use that money to buy down their stocks so they can actually control their stock prices a little bit more and not have those activist investors come in and challenge the corporate group. So how much money does that actually come down to everyday people like you and me? Probably none. I've heard a rumor that one of the things they're going to do is to cut out the limit that we currently have for SALT tax, wipe that out so we get no deductions whatsoever and pass that on to the wealthiest people. Like they really need that. Yeah. And on top of all that, there is the talk of the tariffs. So with tariffs on paper, actually is a tax on imports. So a lot of countries actually apply tariffs to goods that are being made outside the country. And technically, yes, the company that actually imports the goods pays that tax. But what they will do is they will pass those raised costs back onto the consumer. So expect to pay more costs. So anybody who thought prices were going to go down, inflation was going to go down, that's not happening. And what's bad about the tariffs is like a lot of the things that we rely on as home investors, lumber, appliances, they will now have an extra tariff tax applied to it that we're going to have to pay for. So anybody who's purchasing actual real estate and is going to turn over from either buy and hold or a rental property, it's going to be more expensive to actually turn those properties around and get them up to speed. And worst thing is this is probably going to create a global economic war based on tariffs.
Fiscally fabulous, fiscally fabulous. Lifestyle business is money. How can I make them work for me? Lifestyle business is money. How can I make them work for me? That's when I call Dr. Teresa and tell her I need her. The financial mistress can help you build your businesses.
So my hunch is, and we'll see this in the next couple of months, I think that the interest rates will come down because not for the right reasons, but interest rates will come down because the economy is going to slow down. So what's also going to contribute to slow down is the immigration policy that they're going to wrap into this gigantic bill. One of the problems with they're going to round up all these people. Now, they haven't said how they're going to do this, but I've seen estimates range that the cost of rounding up and deporting a lot of the people who are here as either migrants, undocumented, is somewhere between 88 billion to 133 billion. And the problem is a lot of those folks take on the jobs and professions that we actually need that Americans don't generally tend to fill. So I'm talking about construction. I'm talking about nursing. And because this country is getting old, because without the influx of people coming in from other countries, about 25 to 30% of this country now is over 50 years old. So they're ready to retire or go to greener pastures. And they're not contributing to some of the programs that we need younger people to be involved in, like Social Security, like Medicare, the affordable health care. They're not there to contribute into that. So we're going to see some potential issues with funding for those programs. So let me just finish up with what's going on with housing. So the current administration didn't really communicate anything about what their plans for housing. I've heard their big plan is once we start deporting people who currently are in their houses, that they'll open up the inventory for housing. That's not a plan that I would like to rely on for future growth, but there is a big deficit in how many affordable housing units that are out there. So what we're going to do as part of the legislative community is we're going to do more lobbying on the state and local level. So there is a lot of things going on at the state level that we can just ignore the federal level and let those folks fight for the funding. In New York State alone, there is something I found out over the holiday break. There is a downtown revitalization initiative that's actually been going on for about 4 or 5 years now. And New York State has actually been sending money to the economic zones within the state to help communities either revitalize their downtown or do some type of investment in the community to make people want to actually move into these communities and make the community more viable and give something back to the community. So we have that on the state level, and on the city level here locally in New York City, they got the approval to do the purchase of the city of, not the purchase, but the implementation of the city of Yes. And what the city of Yes is a package of different zoning properties, of laws that will rezone properties so we'll actually have higher density building and also lower the restrictions barriers for building up new properties. One of those initiatives also includes minimizing the requirements for parking. And I don't know if you knew this, but anytime you build a new property put up a new development in New York, you had to have a parking spot for every single unit. So they want to reduce that because clearly in New York City, people don't drive as much or own automobile. So that need to have an automobile for each unit not an automobile, but a parking space didn't seem to make much sense. So these are some of the things that we're going to explore, inform people of, and also give people more information about how they can actually get into properties and not at the top level, because prices are still going up. So we're starting to see a little bit of a gulf in between what people can afford and the prices of properties out there. But there are other options to get property, such as purchasing properties through land banks. So if you don't know what a land bank is, you better come to the real talk.
For many women entrepreneurs, the struggle is real. We arose becoming stronger with every fight. Wealth is what we built from that together. A wealth of resources, a wealth of knowledge, and a wealth of powerful businesswomen. When you are ready to achieve financial freedom and become fiscally fabulous, call. It will not be wealth that empowered your success. It will be this call. EnjoyYourLegacy.com, 646-437-7139.
And with that, I'm going to go poison my liver with some alcohol as I get ready for the next 4 years.
Oh, Arthur, does anybody have any questions for Paul, who always goes over this stuff intently? So does anyone have any questions of Paul?
Good evening, everybody. Paul, do you think that new City of Yes proposal is really good for the city, especially we that live in the boroughs besides New York City?
I do. I think it's
because we have no parking now, and the city just is not friendly to. I don't think they're friendly to the residents. They just seem to offer more and more perks and advantages to the developers. They don't think about the city people.
so true. And one of the things the state did was like they tried to bring back a version of the 42J.
J51?
For the investors, the developers to come in and give them incentives to come in and build properties. But what's good about the City of Yes is it does encompass all 5 boroughs. So it's making funding available, and zoning restrictions are being lessened to encourage people to actually develop properties. So you might not be able to develop in Manhattan, but now Queens, parts of Queens, especially once you start getting outside into the 2 zone areas, that's something that can be developed. Parts of the Bronx can be developed, especially as you start getting north, closer to the Westchester County line. There is like opportunity there. And it doesn't have to be like we're not talking, you don't have to do like big projects like 10, 15, 30 units. There's going to be zoning relaxations for like triplexes and quads. And that would be more than enough to like make more housing available for people, because this city is shy of about, I think it's like, I'm doing this off the top of my head, like maybe 4 million housing units, and just on affordable. So there's a lot of stuff that was done, like the developments in Manhattan is primarily for the luxury condos and everything, but we need property and housing for people who make regular jobs, our bakers, our sanitation people, our city workers. We need that kind of housing. So yes, I think City of Yes is a good start.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question. And any other questions? Marcia, you have any other questions for Paul? Does anybody have any questions?
I was thinking, for people that have basements, did the City of Yes have any specifications as to making basements livable? People that own 2 families, etc., could, or even 1 families. I know there's a lot of 1 families with a complete separate entrance. Did they mention that in the City of Yes proposal?
They might have. I know that one of the things that they put in was the ADUs, so development of ADUs, especially for people who have a lot of property, so they could actually put that separate unit up there. Now, there was talk of doing a separate policy revamp of the converting basements legally, so that people have make sure that there's like specifications for basement conversions to make sure they meet the legal standards of what a livable apartment is, so that we don't have the issues that we had a few years back where we had like that torrential rain and we had all that flooding in Queens, and people died because they only had the one exit out and no windows. So there is that part. So I don't know if they put that in as part of the city. Yes, it could be in there. I forgot to go back in and look at what the final legislation is, but I think that was the basement conversion was a separate program that they were working on. And hopefully they've actually merged it into the City of Yes program because it makes a lot of sense.
Thanks again.
You're welcome.
When life gives you lemons, draft a business plan, call your girls, and build an empire of lemon-inspired beverages. Because a real investor understands that in these times, you have to have more than one gig. It's not simply lemonade anymore, boss ladies. Nothing happens until you decide to change your life. But when you do, make more than just lemonade. Oh, and do it in great company. Call us today and build your empire.
So good stuff. Good stuff. The biggest thing with what Paul talks about as far as legislation. So let's just say that you live in New York, but you invest in Florida, or you live in Florida and you want to invest in North Carolina, right? So understand that legislation is legislation. So what we talk about is you would need to bring something that is really perplexing to you in your market, either that you live or that you're investing, so that we can actually help you and bring answers to you regarding that, right? So that's going to be really important for you to understand because you need to know where you need to go. One of the biggest things that we do as investors, people are dipping their toe in it, but they're not really in it, right? They heard something and they think this would be a great idea or whatever. But if you're going to be in the game of real estate, whether you are a real estate salesperson, an agent, a broker, or an investor. So let me tell you who we are. So we are real estate investors, both new and or experienced. We are also business owners who are diversifying into real estate. And we are investor agents. Investor agents are those real estate agents who invest themselves and who also represent real estate investors. That's who we are, right? So our community are that. So if you have no interest in real estate, you don't touch real estate, then this is not the community for you. But we are all things real estate. But a lot of times people are not coming from seminars. They just want to throw off some of their revenue or profits into real estate. And so they're business owners with daycares, restaurants, and things of that sort that happen to be investing in real estate. So we have a lot of people across different states that have different reasons.
This has been Fiscally Fabulous with Dr. Teresa R. Martin, Esquire. If you would like to learn more on how you can build generational wealth and leave a lasting legacy, go to www.enjoyyourlegacy.com and be sure to subscribe. Thank you for listening. Until next time.